everyone, this is Ashley with you today, and I am introducing you to the newest paint-a-flower, which is the Paeonia japonica. And we've also got a brand new set of watercolor brush markers, and this is the Autumn Festival set. This set has lots of beautiful colors: cotton candy, orange cream, yellow ochre, mango smoothie, sea forest, just green, ultramarine, ultraviolet, tree bark, and winter fog. So you can see this is a brand new set for me, and I wanted to show you, just in case you weren't familiar, of the first step you need to take when opening a brand new set of watercolor brush markers. You'll need to unscrew the brush top and then take this little green ring off from the center. This allows the liquid watercolor to flow from the bottom of the marker all the way through the top to the brush tip, and then of course to dispense you'll just need to squeeze lightly. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp my image onto a piece of watercolor cardstock. I'm using my original size Misty for this because I will be restamping after I'm done watercoloring, and the Misty makes that very easy. I'm using Obsidian pigment ink to ink up the image, and this ink is waterproof, so I don't have to worry about it smudging when I add the watercolor or the water to the image. The one thing that I do want to make sure that I do, because pigment ink can take a little bit longer to dry than traditional dye ink, is that I want to either let it rest for a moment before I get to watercoloring, or I will go and hit it with my heat tool like I am here just to accelerate that process. The colors I'll be using today on my two-tone flowers are Cotton Candy and Mango Smoothie. Because again, this is the first time I'm using these markers, I am just dispensing a little bit and making sure that I get the brush nib nice and saturated so that I can put the color right onto my watercolor paper. As I mentioned, this is going to be a two-toned flower. So to do this, I'm going to paint the bottom of each petal with the Cotton Candy color, and then I'll paint the very top of the petal with the Mango Smoothie color. To make sure I get a really nice blend in the center, I'm going to take a clean paintbrush with some clean water and then just blend the two colors in together. Obviously, the more watercolor you use on each individual petal, the more saturated and brighter and more vibrant the colors will be. So it's really dependent on your style and what look you're going for when you start watercoloring these two-tone flowers. Now, of course, you could just do a single tone flower with the same type of technique that I'm doing. If I wanted to just use cotton candy, I could put some on the base of the petal and then just a little bit at the very tip of the petal, and then going in and shading the center with just a clean paintbrush with clean water would really bring out some of the highlights in the center, and of course wouldn't be as saturated or vibrant because the watercolor wasn't actually placed in the center of the petal. So that's basically the look that I'm going for here. Is just that I want to make sure that I have the most saturation on the very base and the very tips of the petals, and in the center I want it just to be a little bit more highlighted and a little lighter. I'm going to speed this up in just a minute so that you can see how I finish the flower, but I want you to take note that it isn't an extremely regimented way of watercoloring. It's sort of a looser watercolor, and it's something really just to have fun with, just to make sure that you get both of those colors in there for the two-tone feel. So I'll be back in just a moment when I'm done with the flowers. And just quickly before I finish up the rest of the image, I wanted to pop in and just explain quickly how I am watercoloring and shading in these leaves. It's a very quick process, very similar. I'm not taking too much time to think about where I want to place the watercolor, but I know that wherever I do place the watercolor from the brush is going to be the darkest spots on my leaves. So I'm just making sure to make that most dark spots, or the most dark spots, through the center and then off a little bit onto the sides, almost so that it looks like the leaf is sort of curling out or blooming out like how a leaf would actually grow in nature. So again, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, and I'll be back when I'm done with the image. Just before I restamp the image, I want to make sure that it's completely dry. So I'm taking my heat tool and just making sure to thoroughly dry that front and back, just to make sure that any of the paper in between is nice and dry, and also to reduce warping for the watercolor paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and put it back in my MISTI, and since I didn't move that stamp, I don't have to worry about lining it up again. So I'm just going ahead with Obsidian ink one more time and inking up that stamp. I'll then go ahead and just make sure that my paper is exactly where I need it, and then I get a perfect restamped image every time. I really love the look of watercolor flicked backgrounds when using a watercolored image, so I'm very carefully taking my Winter Fog watercolor brush marker and just really easily tapping it onto another paintbrush over top my card front, and this just gives really nice fine flecks, and it just works really well for a nice and understated background for this piece. I really love the way that this came out. I love these deeper colors in the Autumn Festival set. I think it just looks really, really pretty, and it all works together. It gives it a little bit more of a moody look. But just to offer up something a little bit different, I went ahead and created a very, very similar card, but with a more pastel and dreamy look and vibe to it. So to do that, I did some very loose watercoloring with the Basics watercolor palette, and I used very similar colors. I used some pinks and yellows, and then I went ahead and used a slightly more moody green color. I could have really made it vibrant, more vibrant with that yellow, but instead I added a little bit of blue to it off to the side, and I think that just gave it again a bit more of a moody vibe, but with the bright colors all together, I really think that it looks just really dreamy and pretty, like I said. So here are the two cards side by side. Obviously they are almost identical except for the sort of design and feel of the colors. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I'd love to hear what you think about the new colors in the Autumn Festival watercolor brush marker set, and also the brand new Paint a Flower for the month. Thanks so much again, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!